Wion Drive is leading the charge, to put it simply, and at the heart of this very effort, of course, lies motoring, and the very fact that the EV movement, the sustainable mobility journey, as far as India is concerned, has seen the way it is, the kind of milestone that it has seen. It is a multi-platform, multimedia IP that will create high-quality content on video, audio, and print formats across a cross-section of print genres, across a cross-section of genres and subject matter. The quality and the unique nature of content will distinguish Wion Drive from anything else out there, and the focus will be on engaging and entertaining storytelling that appeals to a wider audience. Wion Drive's programming will be led by storytelling, also engaging interactions, experiences, and interesting individuals, all tied together by compelling hosts, two of whom are amongst us. And I would like to once again invite on stage Madhu Soman to introduce Wion Drive, the initiative, and its core team members. Clearly, Madhu, we love having you on the stage.
I promise this is the last time I'm going to say anything on stage. Actually, I have immense privilege in introducing these two and the wider Wion Drive team. The thing is, I barely see them in office. I've been holding them down in office simply because they're not the types who will ever be in office. They're not desk-driven. They're out there. That's what, you caught a glimpse of that. But Wion Drive is not just about all things automobile. It's an aspirational work for us. And we will take Wion Drive right out there, and we will expand Wion Drive beyond automobile to travel, lifestyle, experiential, whatever we think, whatever our drive will take us through, we will take it there. And that initiative is led by two of the purest hearts that I've ever worked with. Ashish Jha is an industry veteran. He's got nearly 25 years of experience in automobile racing. Miraj Shah has been covering travel and lifestyle for various publications, and this is the second stint with Wion. The two of them are leading this initiative, and I will introduce them both to you. Please come on stage, the stage is yours.
Thank you for the kind words.
Yeah, he's saying thank you for the kind words, because they do feel that I'm a hard taskmaster, but seeing my face, you know that I'm not that type. But they are the best, and watch this space. We are coming out with some cutting-edge programming, and it will not be a waste of your time. We want you to be part of that journey, but we have the drive, and we want you to enjoy the journey. Thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much. No, not.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's just review once again what Wion Drive is all about.
The golden hue of halogens, classic shapes, the most beautiful automobiles ever made, a passion for the timeless. Silent whispers of electric dreams, the dance of AI. It is a dive into the world of progress unknown. Somewhere in between the endless roads, the cultures that cloak them, the brilliant whites and the shimmering dark, we find our purpose. It is the grind to create something unique. To cradle the future. To drift on, push the limits. To find the heart's rhythm, the soul's freedom. That is the pursuit.
Clearly, you're all in for a ride. Now, it's a very exciting opportunity to also initiate the first session that we have lined up for you, Fueling the Future, Policy Benchmarks and Regulatory Framework. Now, just to simplify this for you, the journey to electrifying our roads, of course, begins with the right framework and policies, and that, in a way, lies at the core of what we are doing here. And our first fireside session, Fueling the Future, Policy Benchmarks and Regulatory Framework, will basically outline the paths that India is taking in that direction and also needs to tread in order to make electric mobility and sustainable mobility a reality for the country. And the rules that we are setting will of course determine the roadmap for that journey. Here to speak are Gopalakrishnan BC, Director, Automotive and EV, Government of Telangana, and Mr. Santosh Iyer, MD and CEO of Mercedes-Benz India. Please join me in welcoming them onto the stage.
Hello. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. I think for me it's a pleasure to be here in Hyderabad and also nice to catch up actually a brief outside. And when I heard you, talk about Telangana, talk about the EV policy, even I was intrigued by this fantastic state, what's happening here. So maybe can you throw a bit more light and then maybe we take the conversations forward.
Certainly, Mr. Santosh, and I'm happy that you are here. A lot of activity in the manufacturing side happening in Telangana, also on the technical, tech center wise. So just to double click after a kind of a 30,000 feet viewpoint. So like I mentioned earlier, it's been 3 years and we've already achieved about 21,000 crores of investment in manufacturing. And this is not just in electric vehicle manufacturing, but also its supplier chain and also charging station manufacturers and also battery cell manufacturing. So what we have now come up with is something called Telangana Mobility Valley. So this is going to be the overarching thing. We have we are looking to aim at 50,000 crores of additional investment through this Telangana Mobility Valley. So this valley, it's going to have 3 or 4 clusters. One is the energy park itself, it's called Divitipalli, where Amar Raja recently has promised to invest 9,500 crores of investment. So this is into cell manufacturing. We are going to have anode, cathode, electrolyte separators manufacturing over there. They're going to bring the whole ecosystem, and also we are looking at a couple of circular economy guys, to take back the cells which are coming as bad quality from the manufacturing line, also from the vehicles later on, and to kind of give it another, repurpose it or reuse the minerals in the battery. So that is one part of the story. Second is the EV manufacturing itself, which is happening majorly in, we have a 10,500 acre area called Zahirabad. This is about 100 kilometers from where we are now. And that is going to be the next manufacturing zone in terms of not just automotive and EV, but also for pharma, for medical devices, in the precision machines and tooling, etc. So there, you might have heard the big name Mahindra and Mahindra. I know where you're from, so So Mahindra have a big facility there. They have two things under one roof. One is the automotive manufacturing and one is the tractor side manufacturing for farm equipments. So put together they have about 4,500 people employed. So in that area we are having already some supplier base of Mahindras, and additionally investments into 3-wheelers, into 2-wheelers, charging stations are happening over there. Apart from this, we have a very large bus manufacturer called Electra. So they have also invested, additionally invested into setting up a new facility close by. It's called Sitarampur. The area is called Sitarampur. So these are a couple of clusters that I told about. Maybe we can go deeper into that later, but I would also want the audience to hear a lot about the Mercedes story in India, how it has been at Pune, and what you feel your goals are going to be going forward. What are the learnings from the past? Please.
So thanks Mr. Gopalakrishnan, and I will also come back on a policy topic, but just to also let the audience know that we were the first luxury manufacturer in India. We came to India 28 years back in '94, setting up a plant in Pune, 8 hours drive you can say from here, and then we have been there, and we have come a long way. In our internal parlance, we call this strategic patience. We have been always believed in India, the growth story, and we have been here. Coming specifically to EV, because this conclave is all about electrification and driving this. 2020, we first introduced the first luxury EV in India, and that time the journalists, media, stakeholders asked us, is India ready for EV? That was, so I could correlate your policy. You said 2018 you had a policy, 2020 you rolled out. And when we announced the first car, they all said, why are you launching an EV? Today, after 3 years, we just launched a new SUV 3 weeks back or 2 weeks back. That question doesn't exist, at least. Now the question is, how many more are you going to launch? How many are you going to sell? Are consumers going to buy? So I think in last 3 years, and we have to remember 2 years of COVID in between, that was also took a toll. A lot has changed, and there is a bigger adoption, at least there. But this is all coming from a very powertrain thinking also. So if you ask me about the experiences, I think one thing that COVID showed all of us is what can sustainability look like. In this fast-paced world, all of us, I am sure even in Telangana, in Hyderabad, when there were no cars on the road, the environment changed. You could see the birds coming back, you could see all the ecosystem changing. And I think that's a big proof point that yes, we are part of the problem as OEMs, as customers, as stakeholders in society. So for us as Mercedes-Benz globally, we want, for us it's about sustainability, and we are saying that we are the first automotive organization to say that we will go carbon neutral in 2039. And to become carbon neutral, EV is one of the ways, because it's not about tailpipe emission, it's also about recyclability, circular economy, how do we again recycle this. So we are working on this even in India. In fact, we are also ensuring our dealer partners use green energy, a lot of investments. We were the first to introduce the locally produced EV, which is an EQS at the top end of the spectrum. So a lot happening, but where we feel jittery is also the policies. Coming back on this topic, there is a lot of, I would say, red carpet by states. There is also a lot of policies from the center, and I should really appreciate this 5% GST on EVs. I think is a very, very big support by the central government to push EV adoption. On the other side, a lot of states are also giving free, registration incentives, and I think Telangana was one of the foremost states, and I can say that Telangana was the best state for Mercedes-Benz in India in EV adoption. We actually went up. 10% of our cars sold in Telangana were EVs. But now again, we see a bit of change in the policy. So any comments on long-term view on policy? So firstly, this is just a registration topic, but you also said a lot of other EV policies are in place in Telangana. So what do you see in terms of sustenance? How long can OEMs and consumers look into sustenance?
Look, so from a state government perspective, right, we are equally interested in growing not just the manufacturing side of the story, but also in adoption, having more adoption of electric vehicles, particularly the self-owned vehicles, like could be two-wheelers or four-wheelers, right? Those are the main options. So from the beginning, I think we've been giving the road tax. That has been there, and also the registration fee has been waived. So these two things have been waived from, I think, last 3 years. So what has happened is we had volume figures. We had two-wheeler. We said we will give up to 2 lakh volumes. We said that for electric autos, we would give 10,000 cargo and 10,000 passenger vehicles waiver would be given. And we said for buses about 2,000 numbers. Even for cars, I think we said 5,000 plus 5,000 was the ratio, I think, private and taxis. And also we mentioned about electric tractors, that these two would be waived for electric tractors as well. But when you look at the whole gamut of things, over the last 3 years, a lot of pickup has happened in the electric 3-wheeler cargo segment. And in the 2-wheeler space also a lot of pickup has happened. So if you look at the adoption side in Telangana, it is more in these two smaller form factors. And of course in the passenger vehicle as well. So a call had to be taken where we had to decide whether we would still give 100% of the thing back, registration fee and road tax, or whether we would extend it to a certain period, see some more adoption, look at it, decide based on the amount of adoption that is there, and then kind of taper it down. So that is still in discussion. In fact, some of the other states, I don't want to mention, but very neighboring states, they have said that up to 2025 they would continue with this, and then maybe after that they would reduce it to 50% or maybe completely stop the subsidy or the incentives. So in our case also it is still in discussion, but for the time being we have kind of stopped it, and then on an accrual or a using basis we would be giving back. But to add on to the other benefits that the policy talks about, right? It talks of one is on the supplier side, one is on the demand side which we just spoke about, and one is on the charging station development, the whole plan of it. So for the third portion we have an entity called TS Redco, Telangana State Renewable Energy Development Corporation. So they take care of it. We have about 425 charging stations in the state. I'm sure most of you would not even have known that there are 425 charging stations in the state, because there is no one website or one. Exactly. So we have not yet started marketing that point, but we should. In the city of Hyderabad itself, we have about 40 plus, close to 60 DC charging stations, fast charging stations. So private players have all set it up, and the plan is to have additional 600 charging stations in the city of Hyderabad going forward in the next 2 to 2.5 years. And for the whole of Telangana, additionally have about 3,000 charging stations. So that will stop the worry of you owning a EV car but not able to go the distance and range anxiety and stuff. The second thing we are trying to solve in the adoption framework is for the employees to have electrify their transport. So even for me, when I think of my next vehicle, I would want it to be an electric vehicle. So where could I charge apart from my house, right, overnight or whatever? But when I go to my place of work, is there sufficient charging stations or points, guns? So all of this, for this we have mandated about 25% of the parking space in commercial places, commercial locations, as well as these IT parks to have flexibility for charging electric vehicles. So that is also picking up very well. Now we, I think, already have touched about 10%. Every IT park has EV charging. There are two-wheeler rentals also available in many parks. So that has also helped in adoption, and in fact, anyone who is thinking of their next vehicle, they would now, without a doubt, choose electric vehicle, at least in Hyderabad. There is enough charging stations available everywhere. The other side of the equation, which is manufacturing, we have a lot of two-wheeler players. We have enough three-wheeler electric manufacturers here to call ourselves as the electric three-wheeler hub of India in terms of manufacturing. So if you look at the two-wheeler story, you might say that Hosur has a lot of two-wheeler companies, which is true. But when you come to three-wheelers, we have it. And even for bus manufacturing, we have a very large player and a couple of others also joining soon. So policy-wise, it has been 3 years. The policy was for 10 years, but we know that we have to give more to it, and to attract investments, to increase the adoption rates, we should do more policy-wise. So the revamped version of the policy, it is already in draft stage. In fact, from all the industry players here, I know that you would be an entrepreneur in different or a business in different category of EV. You could be a manufacturer. You might be in the BMS side, or on the software side, or on the charging station itself. So please do suggest, connect with us, the government, and do suggest. We are open to your suggestions. And the draft is already ready. We are just waiting for the right time for the internal discussion to happen and to get approved. Mostly by January or February the coming year, for sure, the adoption framework at least will have a very major change, and hopefully you wouldn't even have to rely on the benefits, monetary benefits, fiscal benefits rather. We would have green corridors and we would have areas where only green vehicles would be allowed. All this probably will come.
That sounds really promising. And just to be on the charging side, from a policy perspective, one is, in metro cities, I'm not sure of Hyderabad, but in Bombay, Delhi, I keep hearing a lot of housing societies having resistance to charging and setting up. So are you looking at a policy framework for these societies? Because a lot of our customers may also stay. And second, these charging stations that you mentioned, are they fast chargers or are they simple 12 kilowatt or 22 kilowatt AC chargers? So what capacity of chargers are you looking at?
So you mean the additional 3,000, is it?
The additional, and you also mentioned you already have 400 odd, right?
Yeah. So we have 425 of that. We have about 60 fast chargers. This is the higher range kilowatt category. And the other question on the
gated communities setting up chargers. So there was a very big exercise done by ASCI, Administrative Staff College of India, and TSREDCO, Telangana State Renewable Energy Development Corporation. So they have come up with some guidelines. So we have seen that in some locations there were some issues of fire in the basement, etc., and charging was happening. So even when the electric car has all of these these interlocks and stuff where when the temperature goes up the charging is stopped, whatever it is, or when it is 100% it stops by itself, or there could be much more. You're the right guy to talk about it, but from our perspective we thought that particular incident where a fire happened while charging was sufficient enough to look at it very seriously, and that is why the whole exercise happened. And now it has been decided that at least for the moment, that basement we will not be allowing setting up charging stations, but on the ground level where it is open, players can set up charging stations, and that can be multiple chargers also. It can be for fleets. Multiple different vehicles can be charged. So I think I would also like to understand from you the ESG side of the story, more of sustainability. So from Mercedes' point of view, what else on the skilling side, what else more on the ESG side would you have you have kind of initiated?
I think it's a very valid question now, because sustainability, incidentally we are in October and 26th October is World Sustainability Day. So I think we as a brand also are planning to celebrate this as a sustainability month, because to spread awareness. Today we see even within our core consumers, their awareness and responsibility towards sustainability as a topic is still to catch up. I think the younger generations are much more aware. Even my children, for example, are much more conscious and aware than the current generation. And I think as responsible brands, we need to spread this. What we are doing, if you see our plant in Pune, it's 100% run by green energy. So already we are ensuring that it's a fully solar powered balance. We are buying wind energy to run our plant to produce all the car lines. The second, we are also looking at a lot of recyclability. So even today, many of our cars have recycled elements, and that helps for a circular economy moving forward. The big question which many, I would say, consumers ask is batteries. First is, they say, are the batteries sourced responsibly? Because you read the press, are they sourced from mines with child labor, water not being there? So here we can be proud to say that we are sourcing it responsibly from certified mines. And on the other side, this entire tendency, what happens to a battery at the end of 10 years, 15 years. So first we thought, let's give an 8-year warranty. Now we give a 10-year battery warranty. But customers still feel what happens after 10 years. And there it's a lot of education, because these batteries don't degrade as like laptops or phones, and these batteries have second life. So even in India, we have tied up with players who are able to take back the batteries give a second life in terms of storage for power generation or recycle them. And I can say that, we set up a recycling base back in Germany, and now we are able to take the batteries back there. We have been able to achieve 96% recyclability of our battery. This includes rare earth minerals like cobalt, lithium, which means if you buy a car today, run it on battery, after 15 or 20 years, when the battery doesn't even have a second life, which is secondary storage, you can actually recycle 96% of the battery. And I think that's a big achievement. And my colleagues are actually working towards 100%. So we are fully committed for a carbon neutral world. Our targets are by 2039, we want to be a carbon neutral company. So it goes beyond tailpipe emissions. It is full circularity for the car. And that's a big commitment from our brand, even in India as well.
To hear that Mercedes EQS is a guilt-free buy. So
I think we are on time, so we will then hand it over back to the host. Then. Thank you very much. Thanks for this listening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. I'm sure that conversation answers some of the more important questions that at least have been on my mind as far as India's EV journey is concerned. And I'm sure the panelists have touched upon some of the key issues that have been surfacing in your minds as well, as far as the extraordinary journey, the challenging journey towards sustainable mobility is concerned. Let's just shift gears and now talk about the way in which the success of the EV revolution rests on accessibility. It's not a luxury, it's a necessity at the end of the day. And our next session, Mass Appeal, Electric Mobility for All, touches upon this very issue. We are going to be looking at issues like affordability, accessibility, and how to make sure that electric vehicles can actually reach each and every Indian. It's my immense pleasure to invite the panelists for this crucial session that will be looking at some of the other challenges that have already been touched upon as a part of the previous session as well. Mr. Aditya Jairaj, Deputy MD, India Stellantis, who will be speaking to Amit Kaushik, Country Head, Urban Science. Please join me in welcoming them on stage. Round of applause, please.
Good evening, everyone. So welcome to this session, and welcome, Aditya. Thank you. It's my pleasure to be connected with you all today. Aditya, I think you have been a global, I would say, veteran in terms of EV manufacturing. And at this session talks about, I think this is primarily focused on how do we reach to the mass in India. And in that mass, in fact, if you want to reach mass, there are a lot of questions towards affordability, toward accessibility and everything. So the first thing I would like to understand from you, Aditya, is from your experience in some of developed markets like North America, in comparison with India, if we compare these two consumers, what is the key differentiations in terms of buying patterns towards buying an EV and considering an ICE vehicle?
So I think consumers want a common thread, and the thread is they want to see value. Right? The level of value may be different. Right. What they consider as value may be different, but that's one common thread. So if we look at EVs today, right? Let's look at why consumers, let's say, are buying EVs. Broadly classified this into three categories. Right? Number one, for those of you who have driven an EV, once you drive an EV, it's hard to an internal combustion engine. Right? It's that thrill of driving, it's that instant torque, it's the quiet cabin. right? So that's number one. Number two, it is environmentally more sustainable to drive an EV, right? So for those who are conscious towards sustainability, and as Santosh pointed out, new generation is now more and more conscious towards sustainability. So that's reason number two, right? So it's the instant torque, it's sustainability, and third, why are people buying EVs? Because it is something new, and consumers like to adopt something which is new, right? So this is why consumers are buying EVs. Now let's look at why they're not, right? So it's range anxiety, right? You might have 300 kilometers of range, but what happens, 3 times a year when you drive more than 300 kilometers a day? It's just 3, 4, 5 times a year. So range anxiety. Second, lack of education. How long will my vehicle last? What happens to the battery if it needs to be fixed? There are questions that are unanswered. So lack of education.
Right.
And third, which is also very important, is what will my vehicle be worth?
Yeah.
Right? What will it be worth? How, what will the resale value be? Your battery in your cell phone, it's easy to go and replace it, but battery in your car, it's hard to replace.
Right.
So these are reasons why consumers are not buying. And then the fourth one, I would say, is acquisition cost. Total cost of ownership, if you drive a certain amount, might be better, and is better actually in EVs.
Right.
Maintenance and operations is 1/3, maybe 1/4 in EVs. But acquisition cost is higher. Right? So these are some trends that one has seen, some causations one has seen, and we see this merging, and this is why the adoption of EVs is increasing.
Right. So about this acquisition cost, you pointed out very well that there is a difference between acquisition cost of an ICE vehicle, and of course, you also touch base about range anxiety and everything. Acquisition cost plays a critical role in terms of overall buying decision. Now, do you think that this acquisition cost, we have recently found out in India, some 5.9 million, an area where in Jammu and Kashmir where we have found out the lithium reserves and everything. So do you think finding out that reserve of lithium can help India bringing down that overall cost in near term? Because if you look at the stats, we are still like contribution of EVs in India. I'm talking of the overall EV market in India. We have done like roughly 59,000 so far in this year. And of course, you have been one of the key contributors into that number. So from that acquisition cost standpoint, what are the key factors, do you think, apart from, of course, sourcing down those things, of course, bringing down the cost of raw materials, what are the key things, other elements, do you think are really, really important for the India to reach up to that, that aspiration of having 30% of EV contribution in LDVs, the light duty vehicles that country aspire to have? What will be the key challenges as per you?
So, we spoke about acquisition cost, which is at this point higher. So a very interesting statistic, right? So lithium, which is one of the key constituents of batteries. The cost of lithium in 2010 was about $1,400 per unit, right? 1,400. Today it is down. Today it is down to about $150 to $200. Wherever you might take it. This is at the cell level, right? So it's come down, and it has to further come down, maybe to $50 to $75 in order to have cost parity. But that's on one side of it. But what we need from consumers, what we need is that sticky effect, right? Consumers like to see vehicles on road. So for example, we have launched, right? So we launched the C3, and within the rest of 6 months, on the same platform, we launched the EC3 with 320 kilometers of range.
Right.
So we brought this quickly to market. Consumers have the option to buy an ICE or buy an EV. And for those consumers who are willing maybe even to take a chance, because at this point we are still selling EVs to those who are at the front end of the spectrum, right? These are the the torchbearers, if you may say. So consumers, you have to give them choice. Once you give them choice, they embrace it, and then you have the sticky effect. With EVs, sticky effect is extremely important. Consumers need to see these cars on road. Once they see these cars on road, they're willing to take a chance and willing to make a shift almost in their lifestyle by embracing EVs. So we need more consumers to buy these vehicles. Range anxiety is still high on top of the list. Public charging is also an issue. Some of it is perception, some of it is reality. Access to charging, AC charging at home is something which not 100% of our consumers have. That has to change also a little bit. But convenient charging and the ability to say, if I drive on an average of 30 kilometers a day and I buy a vehicle which has 200 kilometers of range, I should be okay. It's a monumental shift in the way you think. And another last important point is, when you talk more and more about range anxiety, the higher the capacity of the battery, quote unquote, the more weight you're carrying. The more weight you're carrying that you might not need. Right. So the less weight that you carry, the less your acquisition cost. So it is circular. It is circular. Consumers are slowly but surely understanding, like we have seen with the consumer pattern or the consumer background of our EC3. Who are these consumers buying these EVs? They're the ones who accept that the range is sufficient for them. 320 kilometers, which is best in class, is sufficient for them.
Right. You mentioned a very important aspect here about choices, about options to choose from. So when we talk about some of those developed markets, for an example, you come from US, so US has roughly 130 models to choose from in EVs. China has 300 plus models to choose from. In India, we have limited. So do you think that this is also one of the key driver? Of course it is, but do you think that mass appeal is something which is, one is TCO, second you talked about the options to choose from. When companies like Stellantis, companies like others who are contributing to the top line, they bring more and more models and push those models to the market. Of course, there will be more and more attraction towards the EVs. In India, simply, jo dikhta hai wo bikta hai. It's a simple thing, right? So until unless you reach to that point, of course, so you need more and more choice. What are your thoughts as a group?
Absolutely. It's a combination of push and pull. Right? I go back to the smartphone revolution, right? This was, late 2000s? Consumers didn't know what they didn't know, right? But when they experienced a smartphone, they liked it. In my mind, EVs are very similar, right? Until you experience it, right? Until you drive it. And that's why when you talk about EVs, test drives are very important. Longer test drives are important. If a consumer drives an EV for, let's say, 2-3 days, longer test drive, they can understand how the EV fits into their lifestyle. So, jo dikhta hai wo bikta hai, that's number one. Consumers like choice. So it is the responsibility of automakers like Stellantis to give consumers the choice, right? And keep up that freshness. So when you look at EVs also, there's a certain element of freshness, and there's also a certain element of connectivity which is involved. And consumers, as we see, who are buying EVs, they're attracted to EVs also because of the connectivity features. So this is important. Another point which I will touch upon is access to public charging, right? So we talk about charge point operators, then we talk about mobility service providers. So for some of you here, this may sound like Greek and Latin, but what does this mean? We have different charge point operators who operate within the ecosystem, right? But in order to access each one of these charge point operators, you have to go to their individual apps. So a mobility service provider is often able to bring in each of these charge point operators. So from a consumer standpoint, you are able to access these chargers from one interface. That is something we have seen happening in other markets, and for us in India, for mass appeal, that will be one of the very important factors that will take us to the next level.
Right. So charging station availability, which we have roughly 15,000 odd charging points, public charging points I'm talking about, with roughly 900 charging station, 9,000, 1,100 or something, 9,000, roughly 9,000, I would say, charging stations across the country. So this number has to certainly go, further. You touch base on a very, very important aspect of longer duration of the test drives. Yep. How this overall, I would say, this experience has been for Stellantis, for an example, in comparison with IC engine where the person will go and pick the car and just test drive and you experience. In comparison with that, company like you and some other companies, not to name here, but they are also giving their cars to a week or maybe a couple of days, experience the car, and then you decide. Do you think this is one of those key drivers, apart from for people to get into a mode where they are out of that range anxiety, having that comfort level? You also touch based upon that telematics and everything. But that more and more connectivity and telematics you bring to the vehicle, there is a probability and vulnerability towards some risk, right. some of hackings that we have recently seen in Germany, some of Tesla's, charging station being hacked and everything. So do you think that's one of the risks, or do you think this is something which is go along with the EV development, the overall EV development in India?
Answer to that is, short answer is yes, it's a risk. But the way consumers see it, today with the amount of electronics that is there in a vehicle, right. That risk is there anyway. Maybe here the risk is a little bit higher. But what consumers want is ease of use. So if we are able to showcase to them ease of use, they will embrace something new. So for example, case in point, with the Citroën EC3 that we have launched, we have the My Citroën app. Finding chargers, right? Finding chargers obviously is one of the first questions that prospective consumers ask us. How do we find chargers? So it's very simple. You go into the My Citroën app, you can find chargers which are not just within our ecosystem, but you can also find chargers in that one interface, all the other chargers which are listed, let's say, on Google. Right? So customers can see it. Now it's a different matter. So we are the only ones to offer that, where it's a wider ecosystem. Now what we need to do to take it to the next level is to be able to access those chargers from that one ecosystem. Right? So again, coming back, what customers are looking for is ease of use. They have certain apprehensions, like you mentioned, but what we need to do is focus on what is great with EVs. Right? What is great with EVs? And there are 3 or 4 proof points, right? It's the instant torque, it's the quiet cabin, and all of those different aspects which are strong points. And consumers are now, Indian consumers if we say, they are looking more and more at the West and seeing what is available there, and Indian consumers want what is available in the West and other countries at the same time here. They're not willing to wait. Indian consumers are very, very demanding, very, very value conscious, and want something here at the same time. So it's the responsibility of automakers like Stellantis to make sure that from a timing perspective, we're here at the right time. And that's why we launched the EC3 within 6 months of launching the C3.
Perfect. So, you just paged about, Indian consumer being very, very demanding. And yes, it is indeed. And of course, very, very price sensitive as well. So, having two things together, do you think that this also leads to a situation where Indian consumers also need to be catered through a different, I would say, experience and channel? It's not the, I would say, brick and mortar only, which will go in the long way. Over a period of time, you have to think different strategy as an OEM, maybe physical, maybe digital. I think this is going to be something which is going to attract the consumers towards the mass.
So customer experience, Amit, I think what you're referring to is something which one has to focus on. Customers, they want the best. So from a customer experience standpoint, if we see majority of our customers who finally walk into a physical showroom, they have actually started their experience online, and they've had several online experiences before physically coming into a dealership. When they come into a physical store, they're pretty much decided in terms of what they want to do, pretty much. So what we have, from Citron, we've created this experience from a customer standpoint. A customer can start their journey in any device, online or offline, switch seamlessly between online and offline, and make sure that there is nothing lost prior to that, right? So the customer journey is protected. So phygital, which we mentioned, combination of physical and digital, is extremely important for us. We have a 3D configurator that is part of our ecosystem, where consumers can bring to life products with accessories in a three-dimensional manner, through which they can actually visualize what they're buying, even if it is physically not there at the location. So yes, this combination of physical and digital is becoming important. The footprint of actual physical stores, as we see, is shrinking, right? It is shrinking. So, but the experience we have to guarantee to the customers, and that's why this online experience and the tools that are available to customers is becoming more and more important. And, with our anywhere, any device, anytime, at our DAC, as we call it, is giving customers that promise that, they remain in the customer journey and they don't have to start over all over again right from the beginning just because they have switched mediums.
Perfect. Aditya, thank you so much. We are running out of time. So thank you for your lot of insights, and I wish you all the best for your upcoming programs. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We would love to have that conversation continuing, since there are so many more issues to discuss, but closely linked to what we just touched upon, the ease of use. And that brings us to our next session. You see, the landscape of surface transport has been undergoing a great transformation. It has been changing on multiple levels. And circuit breakers, shifting sands of surface transport. Our next session they'll be diving deep into exactly these evolving patterns. And we're also looking at how the electric wave and the way it's changing will reshape our daily commute, also reshape our cities and our countryside, and how we navigate that. And to give us more insights on that, I'm pleased to introduce our panelists. We have with us Neeraj Rajmohan, who is the founder and CTO, Ultraviolet Automotive, and Akash Deep Tyagi, technical lead, static, and moderating this panel will be Ashutosh Sinha, principal, Nomura Research Institute. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being here. Welcome. A round of applause, please, everyone.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Wion Rai, for this very interesting event, which talks about the topics of interest for the EV landscape. What I will do today, and we have a very interesting topic at hand, circuit breakers, and we of course have very esteemed panelists who are stalwarts in the startup ecosystem, who are disruptors in the startup ecosystems, I would call that. But before we delve deeper into and we pick insights from the panelists, what I will like to do is to set a brief agenda, very briefly for 2 to 3 minutes. What topics can we cover? So essentially, the story is that India's EV landscape, EV story has picked up, and that is definitely, there is no second thoughts about it. The penetration, the sales penetration has been, I mean, as we see, as on March 2023, is around 6% for two-wheelers, around 50% for three-wheelers, and then around 2 to 3% for PVs, and 6 to 7% again for buses. So that's something which is a very encouraging thing that we see. Having said that, of course, what we need to also look at, and what I want to bring to light is the global perspective, wherein we see that India is just selling close to around 1 million EVs right now, whereas the global scale is around 10 million electric vehicle cars only. China is leading close to around 60% of that, followed by Europe, and then there is US. Now, of course, that's good signal that the consumers across the globe are accepting the technology. But in the larger scheme of things, how are the Indian startups and the OEMs with the scale at which we are operating currently placed to secure the critical raw materials which will be required for EVs? And why that question becomes critical is because a large part of the value chain is not localized as of now, the battery per se, which is a critical component of the value chain. So how do the Indian OEMs and Indian startups stand against the global OEMs which have massive scale to negotiate with the raw material suppliers? That's one topic that we would want to cater to. Second, another trend that we see is that, and we heard a lot about the range anxiety. So a lot of companies are trying, and rightly so, to increase the range in the batteries. So increasing the range means larger battery packs. That essentially means, of course, more of import dependency. And also, there's a debate whether we need higher batteries with higher ranges, or we need a ubiquitous public charging infrastructure. So how do we balance it out is another question that I would, of course, like to delve deeper on. And third element is the upfront cost, which again was touched upon in the earlier sessions. So there are a lot of innovative business models coming in terms of decoupling the battery and the vehicle, both financially as well as physically. How does that pan out, and how does that look like? So these are the three topics I would want to cover. And of course, I'll start with you, Neeraj. I would like to talk about the first point, wherein when we say that in terms of the global landscape and the battery prices that are looking, how do we see the Indian OEM standing or securing the raw materials for the EVs that they plan to manufacture?
I think that's a great question. I think the way that we look at it from Ultraviolet's perspective is that while, parts are being procured, if you talk about, the things that are not available in India, right? The way I see it is the silicon, in the semiconductor material, the magnets within the motors, or, the battery cells, right? Three sort of components. The way we see it is what percentage of the overall value, when you look at it as an EV, is captured locally versus what is, ends up going outside of India. And if you look at the three components that I mentioned, we sort of treat them as commodities, right? We don't treat them as, such a high value product also, right? And that's the good part about it. So from that perspective, we can still say that, majority of the value is still captured in India. And while, the number of components, if you look at the cells or, the semiconductor material, while the number may be higher, we're still looking at them and treating them as commodities from our perspective, right? In terms of how we see it progressing, right? While, there are several companies setting up manufacturing for cells in India, for semiconductor, I think it's going to be a little bit of, it's going to take a 5-year sort of runway, is the way we see it. And from that perspective of capturing majority of the value, I think the interesting thing that we have done as Ultraviolet is that we have designed, we have developed the vehicle in India, and we have manufactured the vehicle in India. And the way that we sort of look at this overall effect is that we're also going to be sort of exporting the vehicles outside of India, from India. And for us, that net balance, when we import sort of commodities but export high value goods, we sort of see it as that. And for us, that changes the entire perspective completely.
That's an interesting topic that you brought about exporting your vehicles and the range or the power range at which you are targeting, or the kind of segment that you are targeting is somewhere around, if I do an ICE comparison, it's around 250 to 500 cc bikes, super bikes that we typically have. Of course, the Indian consumers, while that segment I would say it will be a little less price sensitive compared to the other use cases. Having said that, which geographies do you see as decent export potential, and why do you see them as potential, and what do you see that in comparison with Indian market or Indian potential?
See, when we started Ultraviolet about in 2016, right? So the way we saw it was that what would it take to create a sort of entity that caters to global ambitions, right? And when we look at the segments that we are targeting, this is the mid segment of motorcycles, right? That entire, like you said, from 250, 500, 600 cc, right? And if you look at the market potential for that, it's not just, while India is a big part of this market, North America, European market, Southeast Asia, all of these places, there is an aspirational value for motorcycles. And we realized that there were no EVs catering to that particular market. And of course, it's going to be 7 years to build out the technology to be able to cater to that. But knowing that, you know, there's several millions of vehicles that are needed to be shipped in an EV form, I think we went after that, and that's where we are today, being able to cater to all of these. Of course, for us, what we've seen over the last, since we, you know, unveiled the first vehicles, is that the demand has come in from 190 different countries, right? So we see organic demand in terms of registrations on our website, things like that. Of course, being able to deliver vehicles in 190 countries is not an easy task, and frankly, we won't be able to do that immediately, but at least the key geographies, North America, Europe, and certain Southeast Asian countries, I think we are gearing up to start deliveries there.
That's quite an interesting take. I'll come back to you, Neeraj. Well, Akash, the second topic that I touched upon was the higher range versus a ubiquitous public charging, or a much more widespread public charging. Let's say, I mean, we accept that most of the OEMs will start to move towards higher battery packs. How do you see that starting to impact your business viability? Or do you still see that even with larger battery packs and higher ranges, we would still need public charging infrastructure to be much more ubiquitous than what we see today?
So first of all, I want to thank Wion for this incredible event. It's a great awareness session for everyone involved. So congratulations, guys. Coming back to your question. So if I talk about the EV charging structure in India, so at Static, so we have been at the forefront of this e-mobility segment. Okay, so I have been on the ground personally in 2019. So the condition was quite challenging then because it's a chicken and egg problem. People were saying कि पहले charger लगेगा या गाड़ी लें. So it is similar to that case. So anyways, we won't be able to get an answer for that question. Both will run parallelly, hand in hand. So at that time, we thought that EV charging structure is a great concern for our country if we want to boom our e-mobility segment. So we thought that we should be the first one to make the in-house technology in charging infrastructure. So at Static, so that is our USP. We are not dependent on any outsourced technology for EV charging. So we have our own in-house design team who design chargers. We have our own software solutions, mobile app, dashboard services. So we provide an end-to-end solution. So that's why we are a cost-effective, robust solution for the Indian market. So that is one important point if we want to tackle the e-mobility segment. The range anxiety, as you mentioned. So if I talk about the present market, so Tata has the majority share in the EV segment, 80% Tata Nexon. So the battery size is approximately 35 units, 200 kilometers of range. And there are very few chargers, like back in 2020, there were very few chargers on the highways. So there was less scope for public charging. So Static thought that we should, first of all, connect the major highways of our country. So we thought we should connect all the major highways from Delhi, Jaipur, Delhi, Chandigarh, Delhi, Lucknow. So we have installed strategic locations for the EV chargers where user can charge their vehicles and also do like leisure time during that charging. Because for a 200-kilometer range, you obviously need to have one stop for intercity travel. So that was one concern that we are solving. We have multiple public charging stations across pan-India. We have 7,000 stations in India and 1,500 fast charging stations. And that number is going up because the EV sales in our country, year on year, it is approximately 200% in every segment, two-wheeler, three-wheeler, or four-wheeler. So that's a great sign. I am very optimistic. And if the battery size is going to increase, so that is a good initiative, good for the EV users, but it won't affect the public charging infrastructure. We have to install as many chargers as possible, because personally I have been to Europe and China to understand what is the e-mobility infrastructure there. So my learnings were, like, if I talk about China, so there are multiple public hubs in a radius of 2 kilometers. Like at least one hub will be there for public charging. In India currently we are setting up hubs for fleet vehicles. But going forward we have to do that for public as well. So that is one solution. And in China, if I do the comparison, so if I talk about fast charging, because most people rely on fast charging, कि कितनी जल्दी charge होती है, that is the users want. So if I talk about fast charging, so China, the standardized DC charger product is 120 kilowatt in China. But personally, I think in India, it would be a 60 kilowatt charger that would be more standardized because of the infrastructural challenges that we currently have. And I know government is aiming to increase the infrastructural capabilities in our country. We have multiple policies. Every state has come up with their EV policies defining the HTLT limits for the installation. So that is a good sign. But I am very optimistic. Like e-mobility is not a new in this world. It is already an established technology. Electric vehicles is a safe technology. So in India, it will be a good success. And we, like private players and government, have to mutually collaborate, come up with policies, and that will be a big win for our country.
Absolutely. I think one very interesting and good point that you brought about was selecting or putting up your charging infrastructure across the national highways. A little bit, in terms of from a business viability point of view, I would say that a better utilization would typically be in a captive fleet area where you would be serving for a particular fleet with a fixed run. So, your thoughts on why? What were your thoughts when you were deploying charging infrastructure on strategic highways? What was the rationale behind that? I just wanted to understand that. Very interesting move, and that is why I'm trying to understand that.
If I want to talk about the user perspective, a business part is secondary. First, you have to install the charger, and then you have to look for the profit and all. But if you won't install the charger, it will not be beneficial for the users, because ultimately this industry will be driven by the EV vehicles that is on the ground. But if you are not able to support the users while charging, so that is not a great start. So we thought from a user perspective that we should find strategic locations at the highways, in the cities as well. So in Gurgaon only, we have installed 50 to 60 fast chargers. So if I talk about an EV user in Gurgaon, so they won't have any question in mind कि हम charge कहाँ करें. There are multiple options in the NCR area. So gradually that will be the strategy going forward. First we have to target tier 1 cities and then tier 2, tier 3 cities, because in India a lot of population is based out of tier 2, tier 3. So going forward, that should also be our target to install EV chargers.
Fair point. Thank you for that. Coming to you, Neeraj, again, and touching upon a very important point, which is the high upfront cost. We all know from a TCO point of view, EVs are attractive. That's a proven fact. Having said that, the segment that you're trying to play in would not be too sensitive on the upfront cost. Still, I would say, pricing. If you're just looking at the pricing, it is close to around 1 lakh rupees higher than the incumbent leaders in the segment. Are you banking on the early adopters to lap up this product of yours? And B, if you are, then what is the differentiation, or what is your pitch to these consumers? Why should they try an EV versus an ICE, which is any which way a high performing vehicle for that segment?
Right. So this is a super important question, right? This is something that we've been trying to answer for ourselves and for the market in general, right? I think the first thing which is hard to sort of directly answer is, why are you comparing two different technologies, right? Which frankly people will do because they're switching from an IC engine to an EV, or they're considering that switch. But generally, when you're talking about two very different technologies, both of which, their cost structures are drastically different, right? One is something like a technology that has matured over several decades, and something else that is emerging and which the economies of scale are yet to kick in, right? So, but then no consumer is really interested to hear this part of the story. But we know internally that we have to deal with it, right? So the way to bridge the gap is the way that we see it is, one, from a TCO point of view, of course, fleet vehicles, it starts to make sense. The other part of it is the desirability aspect. What would make a consumer want to say that, listen, I don't mind this premium, a little bit of a premium, and I will still switch to an EV, not because it is an EV, but because it looks like a better option overall, right? In terms of performance, in terms of usability, in terms of connectivity, in terms of smart tech, right? So all of these other things need to add up and make it a more compelling option for a consumer to switch. It can't be upfront, just pay more because you'll save over 5 years or 6 years. And that is why we chose a particular segment, which is motorcycles, where there is a certain level of excitement. It's easy to say that there's a higher willingness to pay, but why is there a higher willingness to pay? It is for that thrill, for that sheer level of excitement, and that is what we want to solve for. And frankly, from a consumer vehicle point of view, if it's not a fleet, that starts to matter more, right? So, and that's what we're really solving for.
That's very interesting take. Thank you for that, Neeraj. Staying on the same topic of upfront cost, but from a charging point of view, as we talked about, basically there are a lot of startups coming in, a lot of business models, innovative business models, which are coming up, which is essentially decoupling the battery and the vehicle to reduce the upfront cost, be it financially or physically. Financially is both, basically you have a pay-as-you-go model. Player and as a charging infrastructure player or incumbent, how do you see the fixed charging versus the swapping versus, let's say, the rentals or any other business models? Do you see them coexist? Do you see any segments being taken up by one particular kind of technology? What do you see that split as in future?
So, personally, in my opinion, for the battery swapping, I am not a big fan of battery swapping for four-wheelers. I think there are logistical issues and design issues in that because four-wheeler is a big, like the size of the vehicle is quite big. The battery is placed in such a way that it is not easy to access. So we have to design that EV in such a way that the accessibility of the battery is quite like easy to access. So that is one logistical issue, I think, going forward. Like they will coexist, but I don't think they would be at a much greater scale. If I compare to fixed charging, so that is a more robust and reliable solution for us. Personally, I believe the public charging ecosystem is more viable than battery swapping. But if I talk about two-wheeler industry, in that I think battery swap is viable, and people are already like using battery swap in Delhi NCR, in Bangalore, in Hyderabad as well. So for two-wheeler I am quite optimistic, but for I am a bit concerned on battery swapping.
Yeah, also because there will be a lot of investment or capex from at station level. Fair enough, point taken. Coming back to you, Neeraj, again and I think that's probably I'll just take it as a last question answer from you. You talked about most of them as commodities as of now, because but having said that and going forward, we all know that cell level localization is something which is still some time away for India. Of course, the government is pushing with a lot of PLI for ACCs, and there's a lot of push at state and central levels to incentivize localization of the value chain. Going forward, from there to probably a state of stabilization, how do you see balancing it out in terms of the volumes and the import dependency for also in terms of the geopolitical situation for rare earth materials which are there. How do you see that managing in the next 3, 4, 5 years when the production or the cell level thing is localized in India?
Sure. So I think the way that we have been, if you have to take each specific component, right? When you talk about microcontrollers or microprocessors, you look at fab facilities, right? They're not just in China, they're in Korea, they're in Thailand, right? So our choices when we make a battery management system or a vehicle control unit or a motor controller, our choices are dictated by the geography in which the chip is manufactured. It's a lot of additional work to do that, right? But we have to do that, and we've been doing that for a couple of years now, right? So asking the vendor where is the production facility where this is coming from. The same applies to the cells, right? It's not just only one country where cells are manufactured. Frankly, you have companies in Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, elsewhere, right? So there is a ability to de-risk more on the cells than on the semiconductor, because semiconductor, if you take a particular architecture or platform, you're writing your code, your entire, all of your device abstraction layers, you're writing it for a particular type of, microprocessor, microcontroller. But for cells, we have built a different strategy, which is that our battery management system should be able to treat a cell from different vendors in a manner which is, it abstracts it away, and for the end consumer or owner of the vehicle, they don't really know which cell is operating inside as long as, the performance is up to the mark. So that's how we deal with it, right? And third is the rare earth magnets, which go into, of course it goes into multiple parts, but, generally, especially we're talking about the magnets within the motors. And here the strategy again is, are there other materials available which can make it possible, right? So certain companies have switched to AC induction motors, magnetless designs, right? There are which are readily available in other parts of the world which can be turned into magnets. You don't need your, neodymium based magnets entirely. There are other materials that are more commonly available. So over time, I think that everyone is planning to de-risk themselves based on, the source of the materials, and there are different ways to approach it from a material sourcing standpoint. On the other side, right, where we are building, that is on the technology. So if you say the same battery pack, is it possible 10 kilometers more range, 50 kilometers more range from the same battery pack? What would that take? That takes improvements in efficiency on the drivetrain, on the aerodynamics. So those are things that we actually have more control on, and that's what we play with, right? So we reduce our dependence on external, geographic constraints that way.
Great. I think that was very. Of course, but definitely, at least I can say for myself, I definitely walk out much richer in terms of insights through this discussion, and I'm sure the audience must be feeling. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope the audience had a great time.
Thank you.
An option of selecting battery size in kilowatt hours for a model, or within the model, a subset for a variant or something. And for the audience,
Okay, so you are saying that the OEM should give different variants for the vehicle, like one with fixed battery or other variant with... Okay, so there are already variations. If I talk about Nexon, so there are 3 models with different battery capacity. One is 26 units, 40 units. So this practice is already there. Okay. Okay, so I am not the right one to answer this question, because I think OEM can be able to decide if they can approach a modular design into the EV that multiple packs can be installed. So I think you can directly ask to the OEMs.
Thank you everyone. For the audience, please, if we get into a Q&A session, it's just going to get extremely long. We would urge you that all the panelists, all the speakers are available outside, and it's going to be a much more casual atmosphere as well. So you can totally throw all of your questions off to any of the speakers that you have over here. But we don't really have time for Q&A right now. We'll gather questions and we'll get them answered separately. Please understand. Thank you very much.
And here's hoping that insightful conversation did answer most questions that you might have on your minds. And as Ashish put it, you can always feel free to put those questions across to our esteemed panelists right after the questions. Now, shifting gears and talking about a very interesting aspect as far as India's electric vehicle journey is concerned. Now, as the conversation also touched upon the challenges that lie ahead and how India can navigate them, the other issue that comes to the forefront is experience. You see, it's not just about the efficiency. And our next session, Power and Prestige, New Age of Premium Mobility, essentially focuses on how exactly do we merge style with sustainability, and how will the electric elites drive the change. And to discuss the future of luxury in the EV world, I'm thrilled to introduce our panelists for this session, Mr. Santosh Iyer, MD and CEO, Mercedes-Benz India Limited, and Mr. Jyoti Malhotra, MD, Volvo Cars India. And moderating the session is Wion's Ashish Jha. Let's welcome them all on stage with a round of applause.
I'm terribly sorry for hijacking the last part of the last session, but that was a little needed. We really are fighting against time over here, and we could not afford any more delays because a set layer of a boundary that we have to respect. I have two gentlemen who represent the luxury market in the car world of India, Mercedes-Benz, of course, Santosh, and Volvo, Jyoti. Both have really redefined the marketplace and also the industry in a lot of ways. And today in this session, we are going to be talking about not just the trends when it comes to EVs in India and also globally, but also expanding a little bit upon policy and how the regulations have defined the EV adoption, or also the constraints that the industry technically faces, and also the help that the consumers can get if the subsidies are in the right place with the right design. And we'll also extend into some nuances, picking things from whatever you say. So basically, to set the context, our extremely good to know that India overtook Japan to become the third largest market. And yeah, I think that's absolutely phenomenal. But we are still largely a mass market, and luxury segment is, of course, growing at a very rapid pace. And to you, gentlemen, where do you see the overall dynamic basically moving from here, specifically in the EV space? Because, Santosh, you have been at the helm of Mercedes for a very, very long time. You've seen a lot of transitions. You also have a separate division with AMG, which is also the biggest performance wing in India, and now EQ also gaining extreme attention. So where do you see the transition from ICE and now onto EV taking the journey forward?
I think for Mercedes-Benz, I would say that the transition is happening as we speak. But we also need to be realistic, considering the earlier panelists. We heard a lot of comments about consumer acceptance. Is the chicken and egg story? We heard the same those quotes. And so they are also real world issues. So I think it's very clear that customers want EV, but then as Mohan said, else told me why not. And today a lot of customers have the same thing. When I go ask anyone, they say, Santosh, my next car is an EV. And when I ask them why not today, their entire thing they starts from charging infrastructure. And then we say, luxury cars, we have 500 kilometers range, 750. Why you need them? Okay. The next thing is they EVs with mobile phones. As I said earlier, they feel this car will become junk after 10 years. There is no value left in the car. And so what happens to my residual value? So then we with the battery warranty on that. Then the third thing is, it all, on one side there are a lot of positives, right? We all know about it. On the other side, it pain. And I think if you use EVs, we know it's a bit of, if you have to travel, you have to plan a bit. You don't plan other petrol pumps, but you have to plan, look at the app to see, is there a charging station if you are doing a long distance, and even with. The question is the bigger purpose. And I think in the luxury segment, there is still a set of customers who feel responsible for the environment. They still feel the green number plate. And I think when you talk about policies, hats off to our government. The green number plate gives a sense of ownership. You can find Mercedes-Benz today an S-Class, but I have an EQS. That's a different statement to make compared to just having an S-Class, because S-Classes are there. And I think these are small things, but I keep correlating to the sauce coming out of the ketchup bottle. You keep shaking it, and then when it falls, it comes together. So this is something that will happen even for EVs. I think all of us are doing our best in educating customers, bringing in products, opening up our charging infrastructure for all brands, trying to work collectively. EV is one space where I think most of the OEMs are. They want the charging to be open, they want the ecosystem to develop. We are all trying to educate customers. So I think it's a great spirit that you see to transition to this sustainable ecosystem, but still a long way to go, and we have to be pragmatic, and I think we have to take one step at a time and then slowly move into this transition.
Jyoti, I think a couple of very cool insights from Santosh to pick up and just expand. Also, now with two products in the market, is looking at the electric mobility in a very, very serious way. Globally, of course, everybody knows what the brand has been doing. But from an India perspective, again, Volvo is a relatively small player, but the luxury market itself is not as huge, and the numbers are still fairly limited, but at the same time, the market is very, very rapidly expanding. From your and the global landscape, and also the entire boundary layer that is getting established, do you sense that there is going to be a shift to EVs more rapidly from the ICE cars, especially in the luxury segment?
When it comes to adoption of electric vehicles, I think it will happen much faster in luxury segment. Now, how fast is, I think we are all trying to do our best, as Santosh just said. Already, if you see, although I think the luxury is itself like very, very small right now in India, the luxury market. But if you see the penetration with whatever cars are available is already close to 5%, as compared to, I think, mass market is still very small, 1.5%. So that these are early signs. And the reason I believe is that typically, if you see, we have talked about range anxiety, we have talked about so many other things. Right now, who are buying electric cars? Forget about only luxury cars, but people who are buying electric cars who are multiple car owners in the family. If this is the only car, today there is still a big apprehension, and rightly so. But if you have multiple car owners, and they have, I think it makes a much better sense, because a car which you are comfortable using intracity. For intercity, you have something to sort of fall back upon. But with higher ranges, I think now ranges are starting to go up. I think this anxiety will go away. What we have seen is the customers who first come in, they come in with this thought that, okay, I'll use it only for intercity. Some of them then try to venture out. They try to become a little more adventurous and say, okay, I'm living in Delhi, let me go all the way to Chandigarh and see what happens. At first, I will sort of have some arrangement somewhere in Chandigarh at the back of my mind, but let me adventure out. And when they actually go out, they do find solutions. See, India, as we say, is a country of million problems, but there are million solutions. So people do find, I have seen a lot of customers finding solutions. But is this solution very reliable? Not yet, but it is getting there. Having said that, so I think this is one important thing. So I think in luxury, the adoption will be much faster because there are multiple car owners. I think customers need to charge their cars, right? Are they going to be dependent only on public charging? For intracity, our customers tell us they really don't want. I don't think we can expect a luxury customer sort of going and getting it charged. They want their personal home charging solution. Now, home charging solution, if your range is, let's say, around 500 kilometers, you charge twice in a week. I think it's good enough to take you through the week. So I think that's good enough. But what happens is that how easily you can get the home charger installed is another challenge. And we have seen, I think, city to city, and I think geography to geography, it can vary depending on the DISCOM, how they are able to provide this service. So customers are saying, okay, if I am getting a home charging solution, I am happy to sort of buy a car coming forward. Customers also, as Santosh also said, I think are very, in this segment, we have seen much more environment conscious, and also, especially, I think, getting influence from their younger people in the family. They sort of want, maybe it's novelty, yes, as you said earlier, that people want to buy new technology, they want to venture out, and I think luxury car buyers are, so they really want to be seen, and I think a green number plate is a great encouragement for them to really sort of give a message that they really care about this. So that home charging solution dependence also says that for public charging, they are looking for solutions which are intercity. Right. And I think we just heard about another panel about, I think, a lot of CPOs coming. But in the end, I think we will need a sort of a ecosystem where there are aggregators who come together and I think ensure that it becomes much more convenience. So I think these two things really customers are going forward. So one important thing is that when it comes to home charging, let's say between a customer in a mass market, today we have seen, I think we say the next battle is going to be in cities, is going to be around the parking space, right? So if you have your own personal parking space, then only you can have a personal home charging solution. If you are parking your car on different lot on different days, although you have a parking but not a reserved parking, where do you put your home charging? That problem is not there in luxury. So I think these factors sort of tell us that the adoption is going to, and I think we are already sort of looking at whichever car models are now available in electric and ICE. For example, we offer seeing a faster traction. People are opting more for recharge than an IC engine car. And although there is a price gap, but it makes a big difference. So I think adoption is going to be much faster, and I think I think everybody is going to be surprised by the pace at which actually the adoption will happen in India. That's my personal belief.
Right, and I'm going to stick to the consumers because we have spoken about consumers so much. Of course, they're much more evolved in the luxury car space, and they're a lot more, whatever the term you want to use. But at the same time, we have seen that ever since COVID happened, people also want to move about in their own cars. In the past, a lot of people have started going out on road trips, and that use case has also expanded pretty much. But in the luxury car space, there is still that reluctance. I don't know why, because Santosh, for example, the EQS, maximum range possible, right? So you've had some cars which deliver in excess of 450, 500. Still kind of reluctant. They still think that, what if? Yes, and that's exactly what the two of you are talking about. customer education is what I'm basically coming to. How are you approaching that?
Thank you. As you mentioned, many of our customers have home chargers and even in offices. But on the other side, in luxury car segment, we have drivers also. Many of these our customers have drivers, and they have this anxiety much bigger than their owner.
Correct.
So I can use a driver for weekdays, and weekends I drive myself. And I remember when I got my EQS, the moment every day he's trying to go to the nearby charging or plugging into my home charger. And I asked him, does this happen for you never did it for your petrol engine cars, right? And he said, no, but what if? And I said, there is no what if. There is a clear, it says, and and more at times. So you can easily be there. So we have to educate them and hold them back. So once I was going to Bombay and it had to come back and go back for the airport pickup. And I said, you won't charge. And you have to hold them back. And when they realize, now there is a big leap of faith. I think one of the colleagues in the earlier panel also said about giving cars for long usage and educating them. So the drivers in the luxury segment, apart from the owners, have also this entire anxiety. Because we are all used to mobile phones. I think the culprit for EVs is mobile phones. We want, wherever we get charger, we want to put them. The moment, because in EVs, I keep saying the charge doesn't come down. You can keep the car for 1 month, the battery will come down by 1%, max. And still people feel, no, if I'm parking my car or if I go on a holiday, I need to charge. So there are a lot of myths, unfortunately due to the mobile phone usage, where people correlate how a battery drains. You use or don't use, the mobile phone battery will drain. Similarly, a car battery will also drain. And so this needs education. So what we have done is, today, we have close to 150,000 customers in India, and in our workshops, we get 50,000. We are saying, irrespective of a driver being a EV, because we don't have so many EVs yet, but let's do training. Let's ensure that these drivers, they know what it takes. It's not like a mobile phone, it doesn't go down. And then the other argument of drivers is also about the perfect solution, charging, the perfect solution. And then I go back to mobile phone example again, because even today, we know where the network will drop. Most of us in this room will know where to call your friend. Why not? Because this is a spot where the network is going to drop. So the point here I'm making is we have learned to live with it, right? And as Jyoti said, as Indians, we know how to live with the challenges. If you are mentally prepared that I need a sustainable planet for my children, for myself, for air, there may be a pain, but we have to shift. We have to take that pain and we have to go ahead with it. And once you are in, I think my colleague from Stellantis said, once you use an EV, it's very difficult to go back. So I think for us, how can we get more people getting converted into this, enjoying the overall feel, and then I think the transition will happen much more rapidly. So it's there is a cost factor for sure. Luxury segment, customers are conscious, value conscious, right? So nobody is going to just pay a premium compared to combustion engines to a large extent. So this is where then the policy making topic comes up. We need consistency on GST, at least till commitment from the government that this is the rate, this will remain. Similarly from state governments, wherever need this consistency to say, so we as OEMs can invest, we can localize, we can do more. Also the smaller players, you have the two-wheeler players, you have the four-wheeler, and the entire ecosystem can invest. See, Hello. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. I think for me it's a pleasure to be here in Hyderabad, and also nice to catch up actually a brief outside. And when I heard you, talk about Telangana, talk about the EV policy, even I was intrigued by this fantastic state, what's happening here. So maybe can you throw a bit more light, and then maybe we take the conversations forward.
Certainly, Mr. Santosh, and I'm happy that
you are here. A lot of activity in the manufacturing side happening in Telangana, also on the technical, tech center wise. So just to double click after a kind of a 30,000 feet viewpoint. So like I mentioned earlier, it's been 3 years and we've already achieved about 21,000 crores of investment in manufacturing. And this is not just in electric vehicle manufacturing, but also its supplier chain and also charging station manufacturers and also battery cell manufacturing. So what we have now come up with is
for close to 100 years. This is a new thing which is now coming in, and I think it will evolve from here. So I think it is important that we educate our early customers, and that is something very, very important. Second thing, I think I would once again like to thank Wion for organizing a conclave like this. This is part of the education. This way the message goes to people here and your all viewers in terms of what it really means and why EVs make a lot of sense. And they do. There is no doubt about it. I think my colleague from Settlans talk about a lot of benefits. It's a quiet cabin, it is eco-friendly, and it is a new technology, and I think it can really be much more, even I think we are talking about cars becoming more smarter. EVs can, I think, do that really well. So there is a package which is available. And I think it's with Santosh. I think what is required is a clear sunset clause that, okay, this is what it is, will continue till this time. These uncertainties, India are not doing different type of activities to attract investments. See, the biggest threat to investment is uncertainty. India, I think in global companies, they look at what is called as VUCA, the VUCA index. We are the worst. I think amongst the all the countries who try and make a pitch to invest in India, we are so uncertain. And I think a certainty will make a big difference. So I think I totally agree with Santosh here that if there is a GST, let it continue till a particular time, well defined. If there is a benefit available by state governments, it's available till so and so time. It can't be changing over time for one or the other reasons. The reasons are logical, no doubt about it. But see, if we as a country, we want electric vehicles to be adopted, I think this is because today the technology is costlier. There is no doubt about it. I think when I think the two technologies become almost equal, but that's far away. It's not going to happen tomorrow. So till that time, I think this can make a very big difference, and I think certainty in the policy and a clear sunset clause will help us. I think government has a lot of positives. Question is, make it certain, make it defined.
Right. I'm going to pick one point from what you said just now about how the entire experience of an electric car is very different to an ICE product. Santosh's organization, the global unit, has launched something called Hyperscreen. We all know how fantastic it is. First of all, MBUX. I mean, it's just absolutely wonderful to use, and the entire car operates out of that one thing. So a very tangential question, but also kind of merging into the EV conversation. You, of course, sit on a lot of data because you have access to the Hyperscreen. You have the entire behavioral drive, what exactly is happening with the car at what time, and how do you leverage that data to become more educated solutions as you go forward?
No, I think even combustion engine cars, in that sense, today cars are connected, so we are able to gather a lot of data. The second trend, apart from electrification, is also a lot of autonomous driving and or assisted driving, because of all the ADAS features that's coming in cars. So as Mercedes-Benz, first is we have to use the data responsibly. So we will, one with consent and second on an aggregated basis. And with this, apart from all the consumer benefit of, informing on service, ensuring the parts are available, the roadside assistance and many others, we are now going beyond that. And this India. So we are now saying that where is which part, suppose we take Hyderabad and we say, let's locations in Hyderabad where my active brake assist is going frequently, more. And those are spots we have to collaborate with the city council, and this is the data our cars are throwing. Or on the other side, of course, potholes or others, we are able to detect, because all this data is going into the cloud. Today we have car-to-car communication. So one car is telling the other car, this is where there is a pothole, a speed bump. And can we use all this data, work with the civic authorities, work with them to make the cities safer, those intersections better. So we are working on each level. One is how to make the life of the consumer better with all of this data, how to ensure we collaborate with cities. Also, when it comes to EV and design and hyperscreen, for example, there's a lot of digitalization. Put, battery on a combustion engine. It's possible. We have done it. Our earlier. Now, EV also has to be recycled. Recycled bottles to make seats, which we could have done in combustion engines also, but there the thought was not there on sustainability as much as that's there. I think consumers also now aerodynamic designs, because EVs are not those bulky cars, they are more aerodynamic because you want to give range so that you are also more efficient on what we do. So the change has to happen on multiple levels. Digitalization, coming back to your original question, I think use of data also from charging, we now going to get into India in some time is also about payment. So I think the colleagues from Static was mentioning intercity charging issues. But the bigger pain point is paying once you charge. You need to have 3-4 apps, then you need to have wallets. Wallets have to be done because you don't know which charging station is going. So imagine you are just driving into your car, charging, and the car is paying for you. And that's the level of seamlessness that should come. So all these dashboards screen value to the consumer life and should make it much better. Target Mercedes-Benz operating system that will be really, helping consumers to
substantiate. Mercedes-Benz globally has tied up with MasterCard in serving that purpose. Jyoti, coming to you again, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the ratio between the mechanicals versus the electronics, 85 now with this shift, almost what are the next milestones in this space, and how will you study the consumer behavior right from the global perspective to now also, and
talking from buyers work, the way so whole value chain has to participate to make it work. And I think areas that I think globally we are working on to ensure that we sort of come to become a carbon neutral company by 2040. whether it is the use of material at design stage or I think replacement of batteries, how do they are sort of refurbished. All those things are, I think, something which will make a very big difference. With respect to data specifically, and I think one important thing is, see, we have been studying crash data for 60, 70 years. And I think, as you know, Volvo is known for safety. We have, I think all of our cars are five-star NCAP ratings. So what happens is, from each crash, there's a learning which comes back. And what could have happened, first the whole analysis is done. What actually happened, what could have avoided this, or how it could have been minimized. And I think that data is sort of over generations coming together and I think available. Now when we are now making EVs, all that data becomes even more critical. Because on one side, we have to ensure the cars are aerodynamic, they are good looking, they are more efficient, they have to offer more range, but yes, they also have to be more safe. Sustainability and safety are, I think, both equally important. So this data, which has been with us for a long time, is something which sort of we sort of to ensure that those capabilities, those learnings are there when we are now developing new electric cars. And that is something which gives us confidence that I think we will be able to provide and I think move in the direction that we really want to move in. So I think this is a very important aspect that as an organization we look at sustainability and safety is a much larger context here. When we say safety, it is not just the safety of the passenger sitting inside the car, it is the safety of the whole ecosystem, for pedestrians, for I think road safety in general, and I think sustainability basically means safety for the Mother Earth. So it's sort of, that's what we are working on.
Very, very quickly, because I think we are running out of time now, and what are the learnings, both of you, you represent global organizations, what are the learnings from some global practices that you think are very, very practical and also things that can be kind of implemented in the Indian landscape?
Right now we are selling 2 electric cars in India, XC40 Recharge and C40 Recharge, and I think we have got very good traction here. But when it comes to, I think I would say, learnings that we pick up from other countries, I think it is first and foremost is this change of habit. And I think this starts from home. So 1.5 years back, I took all my team members and all my retailers to Norway, seen as a country which sort of is ahead in electrification, and all they sell all their cars there, and we went there. So everyone had a lot of questions around that time, because that was just before we had actually brought the car. So how this car is maintained, all those what ifs were there. And I think that helped them understand that how in a market like Norway, we are we can learn from there, and I think bring those learnings here. So what we learned is one interesting anecdote. Put charging stations, because later on it is going to become difficult. So I think for our retailer partners, they've understood, okay, if I really want to install today maybe only one charger, but maybe over a period of time, rather than waiting, do it early in the cycle. That will help to ensure that we are able to give the right service and the right signal. I think we have been talking about. First thing is, the easiest is finding where is the charger. Now that's not enough. Next level is, I think, a dynamic condition, whether it's working, whether or how much time. Second one, the dynamic information about the charger. The next one is then this journey is something which one, and I think we are working to ensure that we are able to offer that, I think, together. So these are the small little things, but they will make a very big difference, because these things can then answer these what ifs which are going on.
జిహెచ్ఎంసీ ఎన్నికలు అయినాకనట ఆయన దగ్గరికి పోయి నన్ను మీ ఎన్డీఏలో కలుపుకోండి అని కేసీఆర్ ఆయన అడిగిండట. ఇప్పుడు 3 ఏళ్ల క్రితం కేసీఆర్ నేను అడిగితే ఆ మాటను అప్పుడే చెప్పచ్చు కదా, మీరు అధ్యక్షుడితోటో వాళ్ళతోటో కేసీఆర్ మమ్మల్ని అడిగిండు మేము కాదన్నాం అని చెప్పి అప్పుడే చెప్పచ్చు కదా. ఇప్పుడు ఎలక్షన్లు ముందటొస్తున్నాయి అనగానే ఇప్పుడు ఎందుకు మాట్లాడుతున్నావు ఆ మాట? ఆలోచించాల్సిన విషయం కదా. అయినా నీతో మేము ఎందుకు కలుస్తాం, మాకు ఏం అవసరం ఉన్నది నీతో కలనీకి? బీజేపీకి కాంగ్రెస్కు సమాన దూరం అని చెప్పి బీఆర్ఎస్ పార్టీ పెట్టినప్పుడే కేసీఆర్ చెప్పిండు, క్లియర్గా చెప్పిండు. మీతో ఏమవసరం మాకు కలవనికి అంటే ఇటువంటి మాటలన్నీ కూడా ఒక పెద్ద మనిషి అటువంటి తోడు ఇంత చిల్లరగా ఇంత నీచ స్థాయికి దిగజారి మాట్లాడు అన్యాయం. అవినీతి గురించి మాట్లాడుతుంది కేసీఆర్, అవినీతి పరుడు అంటే చూపి సాక్ష్యాలు ఆధారు రుజువులతోటి చూపించి మాట్లాడు, లేదు చర్యలు తీసుకో చట్టపరంగా. నేను ఎవడాపిండు? కేసీఆర్ నిజంగానే తప్పు చేసి ఉంటే ఆధారాలు చూపి, సాక్ష్యాలు చూపి. నువ్వు ప్రధానమంత్రి కదా, అధికారమే నీ చేయాలి ఉన్నది కదా, చూపించి చట్టపరంగా చర్యలు తీసుకో. అవినీతిని అంతం చేస్తున్నాడు ఆయన. ఇంకో 5 ఏళ్ళు ఇవ్వాలన్నట్టు ఇప్పుడు ఆయన ఇంకో 5 ఏళ్ళు అధికారం ఇస్తే అవినీతిని అంతం చేయాలి. ఈ 10 ఏళ్ళు ఏం చేసినావు? గడ్డి వీకినవా? ఇంకో 5 ఏళ్ళు అధికారం ఇస్తున్నట్ట అవినీతిని అంతం చేస్తున్నట్టు. మరి ఈ 10 ఏళ్ళు ఏం చేసినావు? ఎవడొద్దన్నా నేను అవినీతి అంతం చేయడానికి? నువ్వే అవినీతి, నువ్వే నంబర్ 1 అవినీతి ఈ దేశంలో. ఒక్కొక్క వేరే పార్టీ ఎమ్మెల్యేకు 100 కోట్లైనా సరే ఇచ్చి కొంటాము అని చెప్పి వీడియోలో చెప్పి నువ్వు పంపించిన సాములు మొత్తం దొరికిరు టీవీలల్లో. ఒక్క ఎమ్మెల్యేకి 100 కోట్లు ఇస్తారట. అట్లా ఇచ్చి ఇప్పటికి 8 ప్రభుత్వాలను కూలగొట్టిరు ఈ దేశంలో. 8 రాష్ట్ర ప్రభుత్వాలు కూలగొట్టాలి బీజేపీ వాళ్ళు గతనెక్కారు. ఎమ్మెల్యేలకు పైసలు ఇచ్చి కొని ముఖ్యమంత్రిని వడగొట్టిరు. 8, 1 కాదు 2 కాదు. అవన్నీ ఎక్కడికి వెళ్ళొచ్చిన పైసలు? ఇగో ఈ అదాని అనేటోడు ఒకడున్నాడు. ఈ అదాని అనేటోనికి మొత్తం దేశం అప్ప చెప్తారు వాళ్ళు. ఓడరేవులు వాళ్ళకే, ఎయిర్పోర్టులు వాళ్ళకే, రైల్వే స్టేషన్లు వాళ్ళకే, అన్నీ ఒక్కటి కాదు సర్వం. లక్షల కోట్ల బ్యాంకు రుణాలు మాఫీ చేస్తున్నారు వాళ్ళకి. వీళ్ళందరి దగ్గర డబ్బులు తీసుకొని ఈ ఎమ్మెల్యేలు వేరే పార్టీలో గెలిచిన వాళ్ళు ఓడగొట్టే పనిలో పడ్డారు ఇప్పుడు. ఇక
అన్ని న్యూస్ అప్డేట్స్ కి 1 స్టాప్ సొల్యూషన్ జీ తెలుగు న్యూస్ యాప్. మొబైల్ తీసుకోండి, జీ తెలుగు న్యూస్ యాప్ డౌన్లోడ్ చేయండి.
It's going to be the government's job. So we need to be very, very aware that
but Ashish, when you do research and you can do a poll, we don't have the time, but I in all the polls I have proved it wrong. India today produces 42% of its energy via non-fossil fuels. So we are in a country which really is good. Now you can say let's shift to EVs only when we are at 100%, because that day will never come. Second, I was surprised to learn that India has a ministry for renewable resources much before even Europe had it. Many European countries had it. So there are a lot of positives about India, that we are ahead of the game. We are on the renewable side. And now going back to your experience, when I used to drive cars from Bombay to Kerala, my hometown, and this I'm saying 25 years back. There, I never had Google Maps. I never knew where is the next petrol pump. We used to have a empty can in our cars for the worst. Many of us in this room who are seasoned drivers who have driven. But we never stopped driving, right? We never said that cars won't happen. I think what we all have to commit, because this EV panel is, can't we take a bit of pain for a sustainable future? As long as we commit to this, I think we will all be in the next level.
Absolutely. And just to end this session, I think we undermine ourselves. I think we are very, very experimental. We are very ready to adopt new technologies, and that is something that we have shown with the leaps on different industries that we have taken. So thank you very much. It's gone on for a bit. I'm terribly sorry for that. I just keep on chattering sometimes. But thank you, everyone. Santosh, Jyoti, it's been a pleasure.
Taking a bit of pain to build a sustainable future, and that I think aptly summarizes some of the points that were mentioned as a part of that conversation. And I have to say I would have loved for that conversation to go on beyond this duration, but we are running out of time. And as we look at the various aspects of the EV journey, we've talked about the wheels, batteries, we've talked about what happens to the battery and so forth, but let's also talk about the infrastructural model that is essentially powering this EV revolution in the country. And that brings us to the final session of this evening, ladies and gentlemen, EV economics, business dynamics of the EV industry, a very crucial aspect at commercial aspect of electric mobility and demystifying it for you. We have with us Virendra Goyal, Head BD, EV Charging, Tata Power, who will be speaking with Assistant Professor, Practice and Academic Director, Center for Business Innovation, ISB, Vijay Sundar M, to talk about this and more. Can we please have you on the stage? Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. So in the previous session, I was excited to hear one of our colleagues talking about the chicken and egg problem, isn't it? I think the question was about the consumers, the buyers on one side, on the other hand, there was a talk about are we ready for it? How is our EV charging infrastructure ready for it? And that is where I heard it's a chicken and egg problem. And Akash is here smiling in front of me. So this is an important problem for two reasons. Because we're talking about a problem at 8:25 p.m. So chickens and eggs, of course, are naturally important for us at this time. And beyond that, this is an expensive egg. Because this egg actually is equivalent to 1 million registered EVs today, as we are talking today, exist in our country. 1 million EVs are already registered out there, so the egg looks pretty expensive. Now we have with us Viren from the largest EV charging company here, Tata Power. Now why don't you talk to us about the chicken out there, because the egg is anyway expensive, 1 million registered EVs. Please talk to us, Viren, about how are we ready with regard to the EV charging? As a nation, where are we? We often hear many segments of EV charging. Why don't you talk to us about that?
Sure. Thanks, Professor. And good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Before I talk about EV charging and infrastructure, let me appreciate the organizer, for walking the talk, organizing a program on EV sustainability, also having a thoughtful, not having those plastic bottles. I observed outside also they have not kept those water bottles. That's a wonderful, that's a care. Everyone talked about today's youth is driving the EV adoption, and this was something very impressive. Coming to EV charging, see, there are 4 segments. Let me make it very simple. Most of the points have been discussed. I will touch upon the pain point which all 3 customers of mine, my customers are OEMs. Of course, they sell the cars and the users use it. So they talked about one of the common pain point. I will certainly address it. See, there are 4 segments of EV charging. A, home charging. Second is public charging. Public is public, semi-public. Third is fleet charging. And fourth is bus charging. So Tata Power is active in all the 4 charging segments in the country. We are the largest charge point operator. We have about 4,500 charging points, 4,800 charging points. Now, numbers per se, yes, it is good. But then we have also created a network that today I have presence in over 400 cities and towns. So it is not only Bombay, Delhi, Chennai, Bangalore, Hyderabad. No, I am there in Sri Ganganagar of Rajasthan, and I am there in the interior part of Maharashtra. I am there in Tamil Nadu. So we've created that kind of infrastructure, and it is a mix of AC chargers, DC chargers, and see, the good thing which the government has done, or I would say the OEMs have also done, is all of them have adopted to a CCS protocol for their vehicles. Now, this is actually driving EV adoption. Imagine if 3 OEMs having 3 different types of protocols. How would the charging infra get created? It is impossible. So we see the same thing, like mobile phone example. So most of the mobile phones were using CPIN, and that helped the phone sellers sell it. So I hope I have answered your first question in terms of creating that network. Second, serving this 1 million EV registered EVs which are there in the country. See, network expansion is an ongoing journey. Initially, the network was created for intra-city, which everyone spoke about. But then 85 to 90% charging happens at home. People don't want to charge outside. It happens at home or at the workplace. Today, many corporates have come forward and who are creating charging infrastructure in their offices. The second thing, which was most important, is coverage of highways. So today, Tata Power has created presence in over 400 highways in the country. So one can seamlessly travel from Kolkata to Siliguri. Bombay, Pune, Delhi, Jaipur, Delhi, Chandigarh were earlier ones. Today, people travel from Kashmir to Kanyakumari in EV, from Jaisalmer to Manipur. You can travel by EV. So you may have some problems here and there, but then it is manageable, and there are EV enthusiasts who are taking this drive. They are popularizing the concept of EV, and they are answering to a larger community about the range anxiety. One more thing is EV adoption. If we see, there is a community which is also supporting each other. And of course technology is helping. There are WhatsApp groups in almost each of the states, and various car OEMs have promoted WhatsApp groups. The users help each other where the chargers are, or if there are a particular alert, alarm which are coming, because they are all connected cars. They are actually machines. They are technology machines. They are not just a car. They are, the softwares keep getting updated and so on. So there is a community which is helping each other, and which is also promoting EV vehicle adoption. EV, one can say, is a dinner table discussion in every house. A car, and why so is because car is also every youth's first dream, I would say. We always say, when I grow up, what will I do? I'll buy a car. So car is a dream for all of us. That's why,
Thank you, Viren. I agree with you that going from one part of the country to the other, even if it is not a metro in EV, is manageable. That's what he said. So it's okay. We do agree with you. But the bigger concern lies at home, not while driving. You know, today we talk about, you mentioned about the home charging, right? I mean, home charging is great, but when we all live in communities, live in residential societies. Now there is a rising concern about home charging versus the community charging. So how do we tackle that?
Yeah, so this was the pain point which was mentioned by my customers here. See, home charging actually is a very seamless process which we have created at Tata Power. We have installed about 59,000 home chargers. 59,000 home chargers we have installed. And there is an automated process that today you book a car, I get intimation, and in certain markets I come and install home charger even before your car is delivered in less than 7 days. That's one. But the challenge which is mentioned is about getting permissions in residential societies, A. B, not having a dedicated car park, which is also a possibility, or having a dedicated car park, but far off, the car park is open. How do you address? So I live in Mumbai, and Maharashtra has seen a high adoption of electric vehicles. We were thrown this problem, and what we did is we went first to the builders, and we signed up contracts with them, and they loved this concept. We said we will create a community charging station inside your residential society. So there is a society in which we have created, let's say there are 1,000 flats. Not everyone has bought an EV. 1 or 2 or 5 of them have bought EVs. We went and deployed 5 AC chargers in those premises. And they are given to all the 1,000 residents. Whoever wants to use it, it is open to them. Now, all the chargers installed by Tata Power are operated through a mobile app, which is Tata Power Easy Charge app. All our chargers are visible. You can plan. Now, the second question which came was, so there was one of the society where we had installed only one charger. The gentleman said, but 2 of us want to go at the same time. How do I advance book? So there is a feature of advance book in the mobile app.
Like a scheduling system.
Yes. So one who says, I will have dinner at 8:30, then I want to go down for a walk, and I will leave my car there at 9:30. Please book it. So today, we have installed over 1,200 such chargers, more so in Maharashtra, Delhi NCR, and to some extent in southern states. See, this happens more in the flat-driven markets, which are Maharashtra, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai is also we are working. We have also seen adoption in workplaces. And there are various studies which show 83% of charging happens at residential and workplaces. And it is cheaper. The cost per kilometer is less than a rupee. In fact, such low TCO is, such low operating cost of EV is actually driving travel. Like Santosh mentioned, he used to go 25 years ago from Pune to Maharashtra to Kerala. In fact, these days I see a lot of people traveling in EV from Maharashtra to Tamil Nadu, and when we call customers randomly, we get to know, and people are traveling because the cost of travel is so less. Sure. So home charging is being addressed like that, and we are continuously working, and we are also seeing a lot of inquiries. See, there is a challenge in terms of their longer decision-making process at the residential society, but we do go and talk to them in their, they have their monthly meetings, their committee meetings. We go and make presentations to them. But we have signed up with large builders like Lodha, Rustamji, Kolte Patil, Vatika in North. And they have given access to number of buildings. So it's not one. So, if they have built 60 buildings, we've got access to all the 60. It's like that.
It appears like the ecosystem is building, right? So on one hand, we saw both Volvo and Mercedes sitting together and talking about collaborations. And on the other hand, I mean, they truly collaborated. Even the mics were shared. We saw all of that. And then on the other hand, when Wion is talking that we are collaborating with the real estate and the communities out there, that seems like the ecosystem is building. And it's a continuous process, right? I mean, when we all faced the oil crisis several years ago, as a country, Japan was the first to take the advantage, and then later they took an advantage, and later it helped them to build their economy in a great way. Now, from that perspective, if I see this ecosystem which is building in our country, as a nation, if I see, compared to other countries like Norway or China out there who are in a little better shape than what we are at the current moment, where do we see the supply side of this charging, the EV charging that we are talking about from an infrastructure perspective? Where do you see it can contribute to India as a nation in this global market?
See, EV charging or EV adoption is certainly going to drive. See, what it is doing is it is actually enabling the shift to a cleaner mobility, to a green mobility, which is what today everyone wants. We are all promoting sustainable ways in every possible, way we can. So, EV charging is the key driver of e-mobility. If we look at what drives e-mobility adoption, and various reports from research houses suggest that at the early stage of adoption, a policy network like what what he mentioned about Telangana state giving registration free and the road tax waiver. And of course, it creates that policy ecosystem and availability of charging infra. These are the two early stage adopters, early stage enablers, which enable faster adoption of e-mobility. And that is what it is going to contribute in. Second, the examples of other countries, including China, what we have seen is at 5% and above penetration level. After that, it breaks out, and then there is an exponential growth which is seen. Currently, I think on the EV car side, it is about 1.5% to 2%. So maybe in next 2 to 3 years, we should be seeing a 5%, close to 5%, and then the government target of 30% EV car penetration by 2030. It should be.
That's interesting, because you spoke about cars specifically, and if I have to look at it in the light of research, the current research estimates that the EV cars production is likely to increase by 11 times in the next 4 years. I mean, that sounds so interesting. I know there are so many EV specific components, startup founders, MSME related people sitting in this room. So this sounds like a great growing landscape with a CAGR of more than 40% today in the four-wheeler market, which is great. How do you see this phenomena happening in the two-wheeler market? Because we as a country have a very good supply market on two-wheelers. How can we leverage that in the EV space?
See, e-mobility adoption is seen in all the segments of automobile, whether it is two-wheeler, three-wheeler, cars and buses Now, it is easier for two-wheelers to adopt to electric, and we are already seeing very high numbers of two-wheelers getting converted. Because there is, the range anxiety challenge which we keep hearing in car, and almost everyone talked about it. Also, the initial high cost of car. Those problems do not exist in two-wheelers. They are slightly lesser even if they exist. But if you look at a two-wheeler consumer, look at it from a consumer point of view. A consumer of two-wheeler has to go maybe 50 to 70 kilometers max in a day. So there is practically no need for a external charging. There is no dependence on a public charging.
You mean in two-wheelers, right?
On a two-wheeler. Although there are hyperchargers which are installed by two-wheeler OEMs, even we have installed in residential societies. So that makes it very easy. And then there are government schemes which are enabling or which are giving the additional benefit to the two-wheeler buyers. So that way, two-wheeler is already seeing. We are also seeing in three-wheeler side. The three-wheeler has the highest EV penetration. Three-wheeler segment has the highest EV penetration today, and it is also being driven by the involvement of large corporates. You look at the e-commerce players. They are also adopting for last mile delivery, the mid-mile delivery. All of them are adopting to the EV. Because everyone has to come together. It is not OEM, it is not the charging, it is not the government, it is not the corporate. The entire ecosystem has to work together, and including the consumer, and the consumer has to be in the center of it.
Yeah, I do agree. I mean, every stakeholder has a role to play in building this ecosystem. There is no doubt about it. But when you were trying to end your response, you kind of spoke about consumers, and I can see you being a representative from Tata Power. Your customers are like OEMs, right? So you work closely with those stakeholders. So what do you see some of those changing trends in the consumers, especially when they are trying to make business with you? What are those changing trends? Can you talk a little bit about that?
See, our customers are, of course, our consumers are the end users of the car owners, basically, because they use our charging services. OEMs are also our customers. They use our home charging services. See, everyone, whether it is a OEM so first let me talk about OEM. What OEM is looking forward is absolutely great service to the EV owner, so that the EV owner can be, kept happy, because he already must be going through an anxiety. I have bought a new machine, which is of a new technology, and when 10 people are supporting him, of course 2 people must have been already telling him कि अभी मत लो, next time लेना EV car. Like Santosh was saying, everyone says next car will be EV. So he would already have those anxieties. So they want absolute great service, and great service means a seamless home charging installation. And it is actually that way. You should talk to some of the customers who have gone through home charging installation process. It is seamless. They get home charger installed even before the car is delivered. That's delight. Second, what does my end consumer want? End consumer wants, initially they wanted chargers to be there. So charger hai. Now they want that reliability factor should be there. So chaliye, number of chargers have gone up, so reliability has also gone up. They want fast chargers. Now they also want amenities along with the chargers. So what we have done is we have created a strategy that on highway we will also we partner with the highway pit stops, the dhabas. We also create businesses for them, and they also get additional footfalls through EV vehicles, and we partner with them to create EV charging infrastructure. So today consumer wants amenities, so we install locations in those, we install chargers on those locations, which has those clean toilets, washrooms, air condition, access to internet, and so on.
Interesting. It sounds like you're kind of balancing both your B2B and B2C kind of markets. Great. We have spoken so much about the chicken problem. Now let me conclude by talking a little bit about the egg as well. So this is my last question. We spoke about the egg being expensive in the beginning. Of course, the chicken is also expensive out there because we're talking about a market which globally is growing very fast, right? The estimates show that in the next 5 years, it's going to be globally a 13 billion USD market on the supply side. Now, if you have to give a piece of suggestion to our people sitting here who are anxious about this particular market from a startup perspective, from an MSME sector perspective, what are the business opportunities out there for the young entrepreneurs? What's your advice for them?
Slightly difficult question, but let me make it very simple. See, today India sells about 30 lakh cars approximately per annum. And EV is going to grow. Today, this year, it must be about 1,25,000 to 1,50,000. Startup is a synonym of innovation. And innovation is needed in everything. Today, what Mr. Jyoti mentioned, his Norway experience, like what Jyoti mentioned, even Santosh mentioned about the car should automatically detect and charge and pay. That's what a consumer wants. So anything which can ease the consumer or which can enhance the consumer experience is an opportunity. And the opportunity is there in my area. I can talk about there is opportunity in charging stations, and as the number of charging stations go up, they would require maintenances. So there are opportunities in those fields. They're all going to be digitally controlled. So there is opportunity in digital payment systems and so on. So it's huge opportunity when you will have in 2030, there may be about 12 to 13 lakh EVs, and after that it is all going to be exponential. So.
Interesting. Thank you very much, Viren, for this good responses. Wonderful. So no more chicken and eggs in the meeting there. So enjoy your dinner. Thank you and great evening.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me just take this opportunity to thank our sponsors, requesting you all to please stay seated. We have a note of thanks also coming up. Requesting you all to please take your seats. Thank you. We also have to take this opportunity to thank our partners for this special occasion. The Voltage Conclave, the state partner, the government of Telangana, the knowledge partner, Indian School of Business, associate partner, Bigos, electric scooters, media partner, Zee Telugu. And as we touch upon the various insights and the takeaways from the conversations that we have witnessed today, let's just sample the efforts that the government of Telangana has also been spearheading as the EV journey continues. Let's take a look.
Telangana, the fastest growing state in India under the visionary leadership of Sri K. Chandrasekhar Rao, has witnessed an unprecedented industrial growth. Since the state's formation in 2014, the Telangana government has identified industrialization as a crucial component and a driving factor in Telangana's economic growth. A strategic plan was drawn to create an ecosystem and infrastructure for the new industries to thrive, attracting national and international investments into various sectors across the state, prioritizing a holistic and balanced industrial growth throughout Telangana. The industrial policy of 2015 introduced many innovative business regulatory acts that paved the way for industrial progress. The TS I-Pass Act ushered in revolutionary changes in the industrial sector, catapulting Telangana into a top-tier state in ease of doing business. Telangana State Industrial Infrastructure Corporation, TSIIC is playing an instrumental role in developing world-class infrastructure that enables and sustains Telangana's rapid industrial growth. Many sector-specific industrial parks have been developed by TSIIC across Telangana. It has also developed T-Hub, T-Works buildings and IT towers in Tier 2 locations across Telangana, cutting across various sectors like pharma and life sciences, food processing, aerospace and defense, automotive and electric vehicle, logistics, toys, textiles and others. Telangana has become the preferred destination for global companies. Under the leadership of Sri K. Chandrasekhar Rao, Telangana, through its futuristic, game-changing industrial policy, has made a quantum leap and is emerging as the leading manufacturing hub in India.
Let me now invite Mona Jain, CRO, Zee Media Corporation Limited, to deliver the note of thanks. We have a lot of people and stakeholders to thank. I'll not take more than 2 to 3 minutes. I know everybody wants to kind of wind up and probably go for their dinner and cocktails. But we have to thank few people. I think the event was really awesome. I have to say one thing while I was sitting there in the audience, listening to all of you, my God, I was getting goosebumps. The kind of knowledge, information, intellect that I heard today was awesome. And like Vrindaji said on the dinner table, I was thinking that this point in time probably my husband, maybe I'll be able to have a better conversation on EV, at least EVs, with him, then probably he has the knowledge. So thank you very much for, very, very interesting, very intriguing, very knowledgeable conversation today. So I just want to thank 2 minutes. Thank you to everyone, the participants, the audience, the panelists, being part of the Wion inaugural event, in Hyderabad. And we look forward to doing many more of these such initiatives in future. I hope we'll get an opportunity of doing that. A very big thank you and 3 cheers to Telangana government to partner and encourage us and open the door to Wion in your city and your state. So thank you very, very much. I would like to kind of, give an appreciation to KCR sir. I've had a very brief, meeting with him about a year ago, and I can tell you one thing, I'm a fan. His knowledge is like really awesome and unparalleled. KTR sir, Kavita and Santoshji. Thank you, Gopal Krishnan ji, for representing them here, and it was really nice to hear, the background and story behind the entire EV initiative, in the state. And a very special mention to our elite panelists who traveled all the way to Hyderabad and made possible some great conversation. And really, the conversations are really, really awesome. And so Santosh Iyer, Jyoti Malhotra, Aditya Jairaj, Virendra Goyalji, Neeraj Rajmohan, thanks for being part of the Wion event. And we hope that we have been able to induct you into the Wion family. We hope to see more of you guys here, on the channel. And we also hope to, I'll do a bit of a plug-in, I'm a revenue head, a bit of your brands also on the channel, on Wion Digital and Television. So I hope we've been able to induct you and get you into the family. And let's, last not the least really is to the entire Wion team for putting a huge effort behind this entire event. Ashish Jha, Ashish Kumar. Ashish Jha, I saw a glimpse of you on that video. You really are very, very passionate. I know why you love your job so much. You get the opportunity of being on the best of the cars, in the country and probably in the world. And Madhu, thank you very much for always leading from the front. And I learned a bit more about you today when you spoke. So thank you very much for those insights. And thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. And let's get up. Thank you, everyone. Please join us for dinner and cocktails. Thank you very much. Thank you.
The golden hue of halogens, classic shapes, the most beautiful automobiles ever made.
GHMC ఎన్నికలు అన్నయ్య అయినాకనట ఆయన దగ్గరికి పోయి నన్ను మీ ఎన్డీఏలో కలుపుకోండి అని కేసీఆర్ ఆయన అడిగిండట. ఇప్పుడు 3 ఏళ్ల క్రితం కేసీఆర్ నేను అడిగితే ఆ మాటను అప్పుడే చెప్పచ్చు కదా, మీరు అధ్యక్షుడితోటో వాళ్ళతోటో కేసీఆర్ మమ్మల్ని అడిగిండు మేము కాదన్నాం అని చెప్పి అప్పుడే చెప్పచ్చు కదా. ఇప్పుడు ఎలక్షన్లు ముందటొస్తున్నాయి అనగానే ఇప్పుడు ఎందుకు మాట్లాడుతున్నావు ఆ మాట? ఆలోచించాల్సిన విషయం కదా. అయినా నీతో మేము ఎందుకు కలుస్తాం, మాకు ఏం అవసరం ఉన్నది నీతో కలనీకి? బీజేపీకి కాంగ్రెస్ కు సమాన దూరం అని చెప్పి బీఆర్ఎస్ పార్టీ పెట్టినప్పుడే కేసీఆర్ చెప్పిండు, క్లియర్గా చెప్పిండు. మీతో ఏమవసరం మాకు కలవనికి అంటే ఇటువంటి మాటలన్నీ కూడా ఒక పెద్ద మనిషి అటువంటి వాడు ఇంత చిల్లరగా ఇంత నీచ స్థాయికి దిగజారి మాట్లాడు అన్యాయం. అవినీతి గురించి మాట్లాడుతుంది, కేసీఆర్ అవినీతి పరుడు అంటాడు. చూపి సాక్ష్యాలు, ఆధారు రుజువులతోటి చూపించి మాట్లాడు. లేదు చర్యలు తీసుకో చట్టపరంగా. నేను ఎవడాపిండు? కేసీఆర్ నిజంగానే తప్పు చేసి ఉంటే ఆధారాలు చూపి, సాక్ష్యాలు చూపి. నువ్వు ప్రధానమంత్రి కదా, అధికారమే నీ చేయాలి ఉన్నది కదా, చూపించి చట్టపరంగా చర్యలు తీసుకో. అవినీతిని అంతం చేస్తున్నట్టు ఆయన ఇంకో 5 ఏళ్ళు ఇవ్వాలన్నట్టు. ఇప్పుడు ఆయన ఇంకో 5 ఏళ్ళు అధికారం ఇస్తే అవినీతిని అంతం చేయాలి. ఈ 10 ఏళ్ళు ఏం చేసినావు? గడ్డి వీకినవా? ఇంకో 5 ఏళ్ళు అధికారం ఇస్తున్నట్ట అవినీతిని అంతం చేస్తున్నట్టు. మరి ఈ 10 ఏళ్ళు ఏం చేసినావు? ఎవడొద్దన్నా నేను అవినీతి అంతం చేయడానికి? నువ్వే అవినీతి, నువ్వే నంబర్ 1 అవినీతి ఈ దేశంలో. ఒక్కొక్క వేరే పార్టీ ఎమ్మెల్యేకు 100 కోట్లైనా సరే ఇచ్చి కొంటాము అని చెప్పి వీడియోలో చెప్పి నువ్వు పంపించిన సాములు మొత్తం దొరికిరు టీవీలల్లా. ఒక్క ఎమ్మెల్యేకి 100 కోట్లు ఇస్తారట. అట్లా ఇచ్చి ఇప్పటికి 8 ప్రభుత్వాలను కూలగొట్టిరు ఈ దేశంలో. 8 రాష్ట్ర ప్రభుత్వాలు కూలగొట్టాలి బీజేపీ వాళ్ళు గతనెక్కారు. ఎమ్మెల్యేల పైసలు ఇచ్చి కొని ముఖ్యమంత్రిని వడగొట్టి